Hi. So I watched the Painkiller series on Netflix, like a lot of people out there. And I just wanted to give a perspective as well on the series. Just a couple of disclaimers. I am not from the USA. I am South African. So I'm not claiming to understand fully the experiences of USA citizens and residents. I see what happens with regards to the opioid pandemic in the USA on movies and series and news, on social media. And yes, as a South African, we do have our own drug abuse addiction. And one of the most well-known is Nyaope or Wunga. And another disclaimer is that I sympathize with families who have lost their loved ones to substance addiction, or people who are currently going through substance addiction. So I'm not here to trivialize their experiences. So I wanted to come here and talk about a perspective from someone who suffers from chronic pain due to being diagnosed with autoimmune disorders in the past 3 years, because I was introduced to certain type of painkillers that I've never used throughout my life. It was heartbreaking to, watch the series and reflect on my own experiences with pain medication. I was started off on still pain, which the active ingredient is paracetamol, as well as Sinaleve, whose active ingredient as well is paracetamol and other ingredients. But with painkillers, there comes a point where you become tolerant to them and they don't work properly. And there came a point where I was introduced to some painkillers that belong in the family of opioids. One was Tramadol, and the other one was morphine. With Tramadol, it was more on a long-term basis. And with that one, unfortunately, I was was allergic to it. So I had to be stopped on it. And then with regards to morphine, it was only for a short period of time. And the reason for that is because we go through, as some of you might know, flares with our conditions, with autoimmune disorders. And flares refer to high levels of, in my case, high levels of pain, high levels of fatigue, and falling ill. And when I go through and flares, they are sustained high levels of pain for a period of 3 days or more. I've had flares that lasted weeks or months. And I got morphine prescribed to me during that period, because when I'm going through flares of pain, I literally cannot do much of anything, really, like taking a bath, making meals for myself, driving, etc. So, and I remember the reason why I got morphine is because I went to a specialist, an orthopedic, because I was so convinced that a rheumatoid arthritis has gotten majority of my joints, and it was just so bad. And it was during that time that I also had to get a wheelchair. A story for another time. But the morphine I was prescribed for only a certain period of time. It was just for 30 days. And I remember the dosage was for 1 in the morning and 1 at night. But because it was so powerful and effective, I just needed like one. So I would take that one. And I got the morphine around August 2022, and I spaced out the pills until March 2023. So it's very conflicting for someone like me who is a chronic pain sufferer, and opioids such as morphine that had a positive impact on me, that when I take one, I would be able to just do stuff, even if though I need to sleep a little bit more than usual. But, as a parent, as an adult, having to do stuff still, it just enabled me to be functional for that period when I was going through flares, because it's not always where it's possible for life to just be at a standstill and recover from a flare. There's stuff to do, there's errands to run, there's parenting, there's being an employee. So it's very conflicting in that sense that I saw benefits of being on opioids. And like I said, for that short period of time when I go through flares, because I do take other medication to try and deal with the disorders, rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia at their core. Disease-modifying medications, they call them, even though we still go through chronic pain and fatigue and being ill. And also another thing that was very conflicting while I was watching the series is that the doctors, and this is where perhaps the difference might be with, I don't know, on a general level, between USA and South Africa. My specialist in this instance would definitely check if I really need high dosages or not. I don't know how it's monitored in the USA, but usually my specialist will start me off at a very low dosage and check if I'm reacting positively or not to the painkillers. And it's not just confined to painkillers, but also other medications that I'm on. And another conflicting thing that I experienced while watching the series was that with these painkillers that I'm on, when I take them, they don't take away the pain completely. It alleviates. So if I'm going through a flare and it's a pain rating 10 out of 10, it alleviates it, to level 3 or 2. So it's not like they take away the pain completely. So and that's another frustrating thing that I go through with my conditions and these painkillers that I take, that they don't take away the pain completely. And then another aspect that I wanted to mention is the issue of our pharmaceuticals. So I'm not sure about the laws around this in South Africa, but I was told by my chemists when I would go, to get my repeats, painkillers are I'm on a medical aid scheme, and majority of South Africans are not on medical aid. I just want to throw it out there. There is access to public health in South Africa that's for everyone, and there is private hospitals and private services, and you can access them by paying cash or by being on a medical aid. And of course, medical aid schemes differ, the different levels that you might be on. And in my case, I needed to increase my medical aid. And like I said, it's a privilege in South Africa to be able to be on a medical scheme. So I don't take that for granted either. And I don't want to provide a perspective that is incomplete. But I'm on a medical aid, and like I said, my medication is on repeat. So when I first started, having these illnesses and had to go to the chemist now every month to get a refill, I came across for the first time ever in my life. I got diagnosed 3 years ago. I would be told, listen, this month medical aid scheme is not going to pay for your pain medication. I think the rotation, I hope I'm remembering this properly. I think the rotation is that you get it for 2 months or 3 months in a row, and then they have to skip another 2 or 3 months. So in a case like that, for someone like me, I have to portion my pain medication. Otherwise, the medical aid won't pay for it. Otherwise, I'll have to pay it by cash. And because of the types of painkillers I'm on, that Schedule 5, I think medication in South Africa goes up to, is it 10 schedules? Please, don't quote me on that. But yeah, I'm on Schedule 5 pain medication. And so I think that's part of the regulation with pain medication. Cash. And that's 600 Rand. And the other one, I think, is close to 1,000 Rand or something like that. So I have to pay it by cash. And I know in terms of USA, I think that's $30. And 1,000 Rand is about $54. For me, that's a lot of money. You know, so I can't afford paying for the painkillers during that period. The medical aid is not going to pay for the pain medication. So I hope, you know, I'm making sense with regards to the conflicting feelings I experienced. Or is it conflicting feelings or frustrations while watching the series? And I know that in the series that they did have a subject case of a person who was suffering from chronic pain, an actual condition, you know, the spinal injury, that the actor who was doing the spinal injury scenes, he needed the painkillers to help him. And I know that the series was focusing on oxycontin, but it is in the family of opioids. And I got introduced for the first time, like I said, to opioids when I acquired, you know, autoimmune disorders. So it's a very, yeah, conflicting, frustrating thing to watch and think how, you know, I'm going through chronic pain, and even the interventions that I'm getting are not taking away the pain completely. And at the same time, there are regulations around how much painkillers medical aid schemes are able to provide for me. But, you know, for someone who can afford, not me, but if someone is able to afford to pay for them, even though they're on prescription, they have access to that, you know. But how do we deal with someone who has chronic pain, but also becomes addicted to them? It has an impact for those who are chronic pain sufferers, but are not addicted to them, you know, to regulate it. But also, it also says that if you have money, you know, upper middle class in South Africa, you can afford to feed your addiction, even though you need them for chronic pain. It must be incredibly terrible when you have no choice, or you have limited choice, and are suffering from chronic pain. Yeah, look, I'm throwing it out there, making this video because I was trying to deal with what I watched on the show, as well as someone who's a chronic pain sufferer. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not trying to trivialize the experiences of people who have lost their family members to opioids, or who have been families who have been negatively affected by the opioid epidemic in the USA. I hope that comes across, and I'm just wondering, therefore, for people who are in the USA who are chronic pain sufferers due to whether medical conditions or injuries, you know, how does that impact them in accessing powerful pain interventions? I'm not going to say painkillers, because even that term doesn't really kill the pain if it comes back. I forgot one particular important aspect. Since I can't get my pain medication on a regular basis, you know what I have to do? I use, because I don't smoke, I make with them. So you can imagine, because of these regulations in place for the medical aid schemes, like I said, it's either you're someone who's upper middle class, or you have to borrow money to be able to access your pain medication, to be able to live and be functional, or people have to go through the non-legal route to access things to alleviate their pain just to be functional. You know, I know that it is not understandable for some people regarding the impact of chronic pain. Look, the impact of chronic pain is incredibly severe. Like I said, it affects function, mobility, abilities to love, to enjoy life, to, you know, perform activities that one wants to perform or used to be able to perform. Chronic pain is incredibly debilitating every single day. There's no day that I go without experiencing pain. Yes, the levels will differ. Sometimes it will be 1 or 2, hardly even 1, really. It's more like consistently 3 out of 10. But I do have moments and days which are more between 4 and 10 out of 10. And I think it's also important to mention that when I go through low levels of pain, like I said, consistently, for me, it's like 3 out of 10. That's the rating that I go through every single day, and that's low levels of pain for me daily. I don't take pain medication during those times. So, so those days that I have pain levels 3 out of 10, maybe even 4 out of 10, from 5, that's when I really do take painkillers. Obviously, for me as a chronic pain sufferer, I think 3 out of 10 would be probably a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 for someone who doesn't go through chronic pain. Thanks for watching, and please be considerate in the comments. Thanks.